welcome to StoryHive On Location, Calgary. I'm your host, Nicolas, and I'm thrilled to bring you a new episode produced with the support of TELUS STORYHIVE. Stay tuned, because I can't wait to show you what comes next here in the beautiful city of Calgary. Today, I'm joined by Kim. Kim is an artist, a painter, based here in Calgary. Kim, how are you?
Good, I'm good.
Kim, if you weren't a painter, what would you be doing right now?
That's a good question. It's I think it should be reversed because I'm kind of a late starter for like entering as an artist for my career. So, the last 21 years I've been in the profession of emergency services, and now I'm trying to transition out of that into painting. So I wouldn't want to trade painting or artist for anything else at this point. Yeah.
It's a lot more relaxing painting than being there emergency services.
Yeah.
That must be very stressful all the time.
Yeah, it's different. I don't know. It does kind of tie into one another, though. It's there's no day that's the same, and you kind of got to move with the environment, right? Same with painting. It's you start with one idea, and then it quickly shifts, and so same with EMS and emergency services. It's you walk into a situation and it changes rapidly, right? And you kind of adapt to it, and so I think it really ties into being an artist as well, and painting and going with the flow of things.
Did you find art as a release from that stress?
Absolutely. I think being an artist, painting for me, it's probably one of the only times where my mind is still, where I don't think about anything, like nothing crosses my mind. I put some music on and I get into the flow, and I can, 1 hour turns into 16 hours, and it's like no time has passed. Yeah. So it's definitely an amazing stress release for me.
Did you grow up in Calgary?
I did, born and raised. Yeah. It'd be, I think about, possibly moving somewhere else. But Calgary's, it's hard to beat. You get the city vibe, and then you're so close to the mountains. And
exactly.
So it's, the only thing we're missing is the ocean.
Yeah. Well, I think 65 million years ago, there was an ocean that passed through here. It was beachfront property. The dinosaurs got it very easy back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely Calgary's very hard to beat, because for someone who loves hiking, for someone who loves nature, like you mentioned, the mountains are just around the corner.
Yeah.
You can drive to it, and it's always something new.
Yeah.
Each mountain just has something unique to offer.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have a good eye for capturing that, in a way, and a good eye for just going on these trips and capturing the different hikes. Are there some that stand out to you?
Yeah, I think just being in that environment altogether, like I was exposed to it from a very young age. I was very fortunate. My family, we've always been in the mountains, whether, on lakes or hiking or snowboarding. Like I grew up on the Canadian national snowboard team.
Wow.
With freestyle snowboarding. So, I was able to travel the world as a young youth and experience cultures and different escapes, and so that definitely has shaped who I am and what I bring to the canvas as well.
Do you still snowboard?
I do, yeah. Not quite as much, obviously. I like to call myself a bit of a has-been, but no, I do enjoy going back out, and I've definitely got to keep it in check a little bit more as I get older, but yeah, I do.
I want to get the hang of it more, because I tried it out for the first time last year in February, and I went with a friend who didn't know how to snowboard either. And when we went there together, we spent about 3 hours on the little slope, the bunny slope where all the kids are, and all the kids were doing better than we were doing.
That's awesome.
So after 3 hours, after getting our ego bruised for 3 hours, we told ourselves, okay, well, now we gotta scale it up a little. We gotta go where the adults are.
Perfect.
And I think we missed the bronze chair. We didn't do the bronze chair, but we went to the silver one, which was obviously more advanced, way above our league.
Should have just gone gold.
We should have. So we went down it, and obviously we couldn't get
about 10 meters without just falling. My friend, he doesn't speak any Spanish, but after I fell so many times, by the end of the hill, he was fluent in some
That's
words.
awesome. That's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, snowboarding it's great. I find the learning curve is quick. So if you can kind of get through the first couple days that are painful, then you progress fast.
Is there some aspects of snowboarding that you apply to your discipline when it comes to painting?
Yeah, I think, my personality, I'm very motivated. And I think that being a part of a sport at a young age, I obviously learned discipline and the benefits of hard work. And for snowboarding, for a kid that, worked hard and then you were rewarded with either prize money or sponsorships so there's, I kind of felt that reward. And so it kind of embedded in my personality of working hard. And so I think you see that in my art as well. It's, I love to see my art progress. And so I put the work into it. And so, yeah, I think that there's definitely, it's interchangeable and snowboarding's taught me a lot that carries through.
I wanted to ask you, what got you into this journey of painting? Was it something that you always had as a kid? I mean, I'm getting the vibe that you were more into sports as a kid.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been interested in art. I drew a lot more as a kid, and I draw when I'd be traveling as well, and then in art classes in junior high school and elementary school. But when the big transition for painting was probably in my early 20s when I bought my first house, and I was house poor and I couldn't afford to put art in my place. So that's kind of my transition from drawing to painting. And then it kind of it was a new world for me. So I was able to experience larger scales and brighter colors. And so it kind of evolved into, me loving the whole painting process more than drawing. And so, I'd say it was, as much as art has always been a part of my life, it was my early 20s that kind of evolved into painting and large scale.
I also like to ask artists if they went to post-secondary for their art.
Yeah, no, I have no formal training other than my junior high and elementary school art teacher. My post-secondary school was to become an advanced care paramedic. And then, so, I mean, I wish I had that formal training, but I feel like this day and age, you can learn a lot from just watching other artists and social media and
from Google, YouTube,
YouTube, and just experimenting, being adventurous with the canvas and trying new things and learning from your mistakes.
Well, it's about using really what's around you.
Yeah.
And around you right now, it's just, we live in the age of information, where information is just everywhere around you.
Yeah.
I feel the same way when it comes to editing sometimes.
Yeah.
Because some of the edits that I've pulled off, whether for this show or for indie flicks that I've shot, come from YouTube University.
Yeah, totally.
Learning
beautiful.
How to do
it's
things through YouTube. Yeah. And you can do it at your own pace.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think, the hardest thing is not to get caught up in what everyone else is doing, right? Because, and staying true to your style, learning from other people, but staying true to your style. So that can be a challenge with, I think, this new age of social media and YouTube and Google and
Yeah, that's one of the cons to the pros, because it's all about trends and what's trending.
Yeah.
And you want to be part of that trend. You want to ride that trend, because that trend gets you more followers, more views, more likes, more comments.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, how do you set yourself apart where you're not following the trend, you're starting the trend?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are competing for that.
Yeah.
How have you found social media when it comes to your art?
Yeah, I mean, social media is a tricky part for me. It's, the whole comparison thing is hard for me. I've always kind of tried to walk my own walk and whether it's sport or being adventurous and doing my own thing. So I find social media a little bit tricky. I mean, I'm very fortunate for it. And I try and lean into it. And that's where I try and, combine like my adventure with my art and, taking my art into the elements and painting while the sun's setting, or, taking some of my smaller pieces to summits. And so I try and lean into it and embrace it. And like you said, be true to myself and stand out a little bit. But it's hard when there's billions of people on social media and, to be that one to stand out. But I'm very fortunate for it though.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to take what you can.
Yeah, totally.
But still staying true to yourself.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, you told me that, this whole painting, it started with decorating your home.
Yeah.
You wanted to decorate your home.
Yeah.
So how did it transfer over from, focusing on decorating your house to sort of like what you're doing right now, where you're going out and painting out in nature?
Yeah.
How did it transfer from being indoors to outdoors?
I think as my life kind of slowed down a bit with competing and traveling and then having a career.
You're still competing in like your early 20s?
Early 20s, yeah. So I transitioned from like being on the national snowboard team for freestyle and competing in World Cups to kind of doing my own thing and doing more of the big air competitions. And then that's when I transitioned out of that and became an adult and went back to school and got a career. But I think that's kind of when I transitioned, when that part of my life started settling, I became an adult, and then I still wanted to, be exposed to it and maybe combine the two. And so I think that's where that kind of took light. Yeah,
kind of that transference. Gotcha. Yeah. It's kind of fun to see like what you leave behind as you're moving into new stages of your life, and seeing how different passions just evolve along with it. Mm-hmm. And I can imagine for you is just, taking it outside, painting nature.
Yeah.
I've seen some pictures of you taking the canvas, all the equipment, off some hike.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah. It kind of depends. Like, sometimes I'll do a big hike and I'll have my art stuff in the back of the car, and then I'll just set up by a lake or a river and I'll utilize like the elements. So I'll grab water from the lake and use that for my paintbrushes and stuff. And then other ones, I'll just, when I'm painting in the elements, it's usually very minimal. So I'll bring my favorite Mexican blanket that's like fluorescent colors. That usually always comes with my paintings and my journeys. And then just bare minimum, like just a couple like tubes of paint and paintbrush. And then, if I'm hiking to a summit with a smaller piece, then that straps onto my backpack. And
I saw a picture of that.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of you with the canvas just attached to your back.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, Alberta is such a windy province.
Oh man.
How does it not just like drag you off?
Yeah. Luckily that was a smaller canvas, so it was manageable. But and that's going back to being minimal. Like I'll just, put the canvas on the ground so it's not propped up and gets swept off a mountain. But, that's kind of a fun part too, is hiking up and the conversation with people going up, because people are like, question. What the heck are you doing? So that's probably one of the best parts of it, right? Just striking up conversation with people. And it's been good.
What started it? What made you, mix the hiking and the painting together?
Probably, it goes back to, trying to be different and incorporating what I love into the paintings. So just combining those two things, it is hard to stand out. There's a million different artists out there and they're all incredible. So just combining two things that I love to try and stand out. I think that was where my thought process was. Yeah.
Have you found that it enhances the painting,
Absolutely.
that process?
Totally. Yeah.
How different is it, from painting in a studio to just painting outdoors?
Well, I think for me, it just brings it to life, right? It's that's where the colors come from, and the vibrant, brush strokes, or like outlining the fine detail, right? Because nature's like it's always changing, and it's its own canvas, right? And then there's such precise like lines and mountains that don't change. And so yeah, it's just nice to bring that in. And same with my paintings. I'll do a ton of like loose brush strokes, and then I'll always finish it with like outlining my pieces. That's like more controlled. So it's combining like, the same with nature, like the unpredictable to something that's more controlled and predictable. So
yeah, definitely. It's an interesting sort of ritual, going hiking and painting at the same time. Yeah. Maybe I'll give it a shot with my friends. We're always totally wondering what to do when we reach the top. We kind of just spend around just talking to people.
Yeah, just bring some watercolors and a little pad, and
there you go, just a tiny canvas.
For like the hiking boxes at the top. You can paint a little picture and stick it in there.
Exactly, yeah. No, but that's awesome to hear, and it's great that, this whole process has enhanced your painting in a way. Just, you put some soul into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just enhances that performance.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it, actually, there is a lot of heart and soul in my pieces, and I hope that people can see that and feel it too.
What started this style to draw animals in this way? I mean, we've got a painting behind us here of a buffalo, is it?
Yes, a buffalo. I mean, kind of like what I said before. It's, just big, bright, bold pieces that kind of just form themselves, right? And then I can fine tune them with outlining, and I think that's a part of my everyday life too. Is just I'm not a planner whatsoever. I kind of wing things, and but at the same time, it's I do have things under control, right? So I think it's like the same as my paintings. It's a loose painting, and then at the very end, I bring it all together and with the fine outlining, and so I don't know.
And do you take the pictures yourself that you based on the drawings off, or how do you get the idea of the animal?
Yeah, so a lot of it's just looking through photography of like real life of animals, and then so I'll get like a rough idea of the animal that I'm gonna paint, and then I'll just do a quick sketch on the canvas, and then it's free for all from there. It's
gotcha.
I'll grab a couple of colors that I know I want to start with, and build. And then it goes through so many stages. It's like, this light stage of just sketching things out and getting a bit of color on the canvas, to like the most frustrating stage where it's, you're like, what am I doing? This is never going to turn out, to like, this is the most beautiful thing that, I think every piece I'm kind of shocked with.
It's always something new, something that challenges you, and a new challenge to overcome.
Totally, yeah, and I hope I never lose this, but every piece I'm like, that's incredible, and I did that, right? So, yeah.
When it comes to those stages, how do you start? Like, what's the guide for them? Because I imagine you start with the overall shape. Yeah. And then you're breaking it down into different patterns.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll definitely sketch it out, and then I'll put some paint on it, and then typically I do like to put the eye in to bring it to life pretty early in the process, so that I can really feel it, or like the realistic portions, like the horns or the tusks or whatever it is I'm painting.
Too, yeah.
just to like bring some life to it. And then, but then, you know, I'll hit a frustrating part where it's like, I'll turn that thing around and I won't look at it for weeks. And for weeks. And then I'll turn it back around. I'm like, oh yeah, I see the beauty in it again and start. So,
how do you remember where you left off?
Sometimes I don't want to remember where I left off, and I'll just start from a brand new kind of perspective.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So it's definitely like my situation with art is definitely a journey. Like there's no painting process that's the same for each piece. It's different. So.
And I can see that you're kind of going at your own pace.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It kind of balances out your other lifestyles, you know, snowboarding,
Totally.
being on there, athlete, 24/7.
Yeah.
And then you were telling me working in emergency services,
Yeah.
stressful job.
Yeah.
You're always there, always, you have to keep a focus on.
Yeah.
And I see that with art, you can take it more at your own pace.
Yeah.
You take it more how you want it.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I can redirect it, which is nice.
Exactly.
Like, that's not
always
the case with, you know, with EMS. It's, you know, there's certain situations where I can't redirect, and you know, like that could be heartbreaking or it could be the most wonderful thing. But, you know, painting, I can take that deep breath and I can walk away from it, and then I can come back and redirect into, you know, the energy that I want or the direction that I want. So yeah, it is a beautiful process.
I also wanted to ask you, when it comes to making these patterns, how do you come up with them? It seems like each piece, like each pattern is unique.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken here.
Yeah, and you know what, it's
and there's so many of them. It must be hard not repeating yourself.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the flow state. At the end of each piece, I think to myself, I'm like, how the heck did I do that? Like, I don't even know. It just, honestly, I just get into a flow state and it happens. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, can I do this again? And then it's just my style, right? It's, I can't explain it. It just happens. And yeah, I wish I could explain it. And, you know, I question myself if I can redo a piece or something similar, and it just happens. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of see it that way, and then just explaining it to me, getting into the flow, and then just going at it.
Yeah.
Going at it, not having any other existential pressure or anything like that, and then just really an expression of yourself.
Totally.
Being honest, I feel like comes through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. How was that experience of showcasing your first artwork like? What were you feeling at that moment?
Yeah,
Because you're putting it out there. You're well known for snowboarding now.
Yeah.
There's this other side of you that you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, it's a hard thing, whether it was snowboarding or with my art. Like, you know, I never did sport, or I don't paint to get, you know, for the attention. Like, I'm not that person that loves all the eyes and ears on me, and I do it because I love to do it. So, you know, putting my stuff out there and putting myself out there is never an easy thing. It's always like my hands get sweaty and I get nervous. And, but in saying that, I don't think I'd ever want to change that. You know, whether it's my first piece that I showcased to pieces that I put out now, it's that same kind of nerve-wracking feeling that kind of keeps me grounded and real. So yeah, it's definitely a experience that, you know, I'm very grateful for, but it doesn't seem to get easier. It's
no, never. Never.
Yeah.
But you're right, it keeps you grounded, and in a way it also teaches you to always try your best.
Yeah.
You know, because I felt like if you stop feeling those nerves, then you're just taking it easy in a way.
Yeah.
You just taking it for granted at that point.
Yeah.
Like it's just another day in the life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And if you're getting those nerves, if you're getting that sweat on your hands, then that means that you're trying something new. You're still trying something new.
Yeah.
It's something new to yourself and then to the people who are going to be looking at that artwork.
100%. Yeah.
How did you get to connect with Cold Garden? How did this whole thing start?
Yeah, Cold Garden was It was definitely, I was just in the process of like networking myself, and I reached out, and Cold Garden's actually a long process. Like it took me a year and a half to get in them. Like it's sought after for sure for artists. So
a year and a half.
A year and a half, yeah, to get in the queue for that. So I mean, it was a process well worth it. Like Cold Garden's a very unique environment where it's like the energy, like it's vibrant, but like calming at the same time, right? Like comforting. And so I'm very grateful for my artwork to be down there and to be a part of that experience, because it does feel like home for me, right? Like in the sense of like the energy, but counteracted with like a family oriented feeling and community feel. So
I'd say the beer's pretty calming.
Yeah, totally. That never hurts. A nice cold beer and some laughs with some friends is a great thing too.
Yeah, no, it's awesome that they gave opportunities to different artists here in Calgary. Have you had any other experiences besides Cold Garden around Calgary, in markets, in art shows?
Yeah, so I mean, I had actually a large event at Village Brewery where I showcased it was a shorter period, so a month and a half. And I ended up having, an event there to showcase it, and it was the largest event that they had ever had. So, which was like humbling to me, and it was awesome. And it just showed the support that I have from friends and family and my community, which was incredible. And that, I think that kind of, I took that momentum and I'm running with it, right? So that, and I'm a big proponent of like supporting cause, and like I just did Ignite the Night with
that's right. The firefighters.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I saw that piece. Yeah, I saw that post.
Yeah, so that was I mean, that cause was dear to my heart. Like I've worked with Calgary Fire Department for the last 12 years, and experienced some tragic events, and so to get back to that was amazing. And I donated I think it was a 5 by 4 foot painting that went up for auction for a good cause. So yeah, it was awesome.
And to be able to do it your way as well must be very rewarding.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's interesting to see that in Calgary's growing and that you have these different opportunities, and good for you that you're able to be part of Ignite the Night.
Yeah.
Ignite the fight and be able to give to a good cause using your art.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I feel grateful to give back for sure.
When it comes to starting out painting, what advice would you give to people who are just starting out?
Yeah, it's weird to ask that question. Like, I feel like, am I one to give out advice? But I think just, be open to experience, right? Explore and try new things. And I mean, never get discouraged. Like things don't always, like paintings or pieces don't always turn out the way you want them to turn out, or, it's all a part of the learning process, and just put yourself out there and always enjoy it, right? Like that's where the best work comes from is enjoying the process. So that would probably be my biggest advice.
Find what you enjoy about what you do.
Totally. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
What about when it comes to the materials? Getting the materials.
That's the same thing too, is like, I'm experimenting with a bunch of different materials, and I think that that also is limitless. Like there's so much you can play with, and with pieces, you can mix them, right? So for my advice for other artists is that are just kind of learning is play with it all and see what works best for you, right? Like some mediums don't, they dry faster, and like that's not what people like. They like to move the paint for longer, and so just experimenting it and finding what works best for you, or combining certain mediums, and just play with it. Yeah.
Now that we're in the topic of advice, there is a segment of the show that we like to do called horror stories.
Oh gosh.
So in this segment, I usually like to ask the guest, is there any horror story that you've had while doing your craft? And the catch is that you have to tell us what lesson you learned from it.
Oh man, where do I even begin? I feel like there's horror stories with every single painting, whether it's like I dump like a whole like half a gallon of paint on my carpet, or like my dog tips something over and it's like she's covered in paint. Honestly, it's like
walking all around the house.
Oh yeah, and I'm not even exaggerating that. It's
no, it's
like
happened.
There's as much paint on my dog as there is on a canvas some days. Yeah, so I think there's a horror story with every painting, and it's just embracing it and laughing at it.
How do you get on board with the client when it comes down to commissions, when it comes down to sharing that vision? What's that process like? Because what can be in your head can be much, much different than what they have envisioned.
Oh, you nailed it. It is hard, right? And whenever someone comes to me with, and I do quite a few commission pieces, and I've been fortunate in the sense that they'll come to me with like a loose vision or what they want, and then they let me run with it. But, I always try and tell them, try not to form an idea, right? Because as soon as you form an idea, it's not going to be how it's going to come out, right? Like, especially when you give me some artistic freedom. So that's my number one, like, advice or like communication with the client is like, don't form any kind of vision, because you'll be disappointed, and not disappointed in a way that it doesn't turn out great. It's just not what they expect, right? And then the flip side of that, I'm always like, okay, it's probably not what you expect, but just, art grows on you. So just give it some time, because this piece, you'll love it come, it's not that they don't love it initially. It's just,
When you tell them not to form a vision, how do they tell you how they want the painting to go?
Yeah, so like, for instance, even the crows, like, the client they gave me a loose, their loose vision of like two crows sitting on a fence, right? And so, that's the extent of the guidance that they gave me. So when I say like, don't, they gave me a couple of things to work off of, and then give me the rest of the artistic freedom to go from there, right? So that's where it's, I tell them to try not to form a vision themselves, but yeah.
Lastly, when it comes to advice, I wanted to talk about how do you balance, your life as an artist with your other life as emergency services.
Yeah. I mean, I for whatever reason, I think everything I do in my life has a good balance. I don't know if it just comes naturally, but I definitely am feeling a shift right now, like with, trying to make art my primary focus and emergency services kind of, on the side step there. I would love to just completely transition and not work, after 23 years in emergency services. I'd love to retire from that and just do art 100% of the time. But
was this always a goal with you?
Yeah, I think it was always a goal for sure. Like, it was always something that I would have loved to do. But I think it's just in the last few years where I'm like, I can do this, right? Like, I see it, I feel it, I want it. So it's, I'm gonna take it from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to art and such, I mean, people need to network. It's whether it's a fortunate or unfortunate side effect of it.
Yeah.
It does get your art across. It does get your art to connect more people. Yeah. So, even if you run away from it, do it for your art.
Yeah.
Think of your art while you're doing it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's worth it when it comes down to it.
Yeah. It's a necessity for sure.
I wanted to talk about your travels. I wanted to talk about, different places that have inspired your paintings. You told me that you're getting back into landscape. You hadn't done it in a while.
Yeah.
Is there any places that come to mind when you think about landscapes? We mentioned the ocean
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But aside from that, around the world, maybe even around Canada, where other places have you traveled to?
Yeah, I mean, from snowboarding, I think my first international flight was to Japan when I want to say I was like 12 years old.
Wow.
So, yeah, like seeing the mountains in all over the world, like how different they are, and the Swiss Alps and the going to Finland and Germany, and so I've been fortunate enough to have like this broad experience of different wildlife and landscapes and cultures, and so every single one of those experiences feeds into my artistic process. But so it's but yeah, landscapes, this piece for Una that's 25 feet, it was kind of reintroduced me into that. And so yeah, I think that moving forward, I think maybe I'll embrace that portion of it when I'm out in the mountains, and maybe try and bring that more into my pieces, and balance it out with the animals I do, and reintroduce some landscape as well. But
maybe add some animals to the landscape.
Maybe, yeah. I find that a hard thing too, for some reason. Just combining the two is...
Yeah. I think a previous painter who I had on the show, she was a soccer player.
Okay.
So
awesome.
She was also wondering what to do landscape-wise, how to stand out. And I told her, maybe just draw a soccer field. You can even add like some players playing some soccer.
Totally.
I mean, that's something you don't see.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of sports paintings.
Yeah.
You see a lot of landscapes, a lot of nature, but you don't see a lot of urban paintings.
Yeah, that's super cool. That'd be neat.
And it comes down to the niche. Some people prefer kind of like their gateway to nature through those paintings on their apartments, and then some other people like to see like an extra window into the city.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Yeah. Are there any trips that you've done recently that you've drawn, that you've done some landscapes of?
No, so I mean that large piece, I did two large pieces. So one that was, I think, 11 feet, and one was 25 feet. But those were the key mountain ranges in our area. So I did, and they're amazing mountains that we see, and I think a lot of us take for granted that we drive by multiple times a year. But so I had painted on the 25-foot one. I did Yemneska, I did Three Sisters, Rundle, and then into Moraine Lake. So, and then the 10-foot one I did Smutwood. So all hikes that I've done before, and that I think a lot of people from Alberta and Calgary experience. So it was neat to kind of put those on canvas, and it's obviously they're not realistic paintings. They're like modern contemporary art. So you get a lot of, I think, what I experienced out of those mountains in those pieces. So, which is kind of cool. I
was going to say you're probably the best person for the job. You've hiked the mountains or gone down them and snowboard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
How do you know the 25-foot piece was a landscape?
How did I know?
No, I didn't know.
You didn't know, yeah.
I didn't know it was a landscape.
Yeah.
So even more detail that you could apply to it.
Yeah.
Even more things that you got to take into account.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the scale of it, just scale it up from different pictures of the mountain ranges to now you got this space. How are you going to fill it up?
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a bit of a challenge for me. And I wanted to keep it, when you look at the pieces, they're big and they're bold and they're bright, but they're very simple, right? I wanted the mountains to kind of speak for themselves, and I didn't, you don't look at them and there's not like super fine detail, but they definitely speak to you.
Exactly. And here in Calgary, we're very lucky that we get a lot of clear days where we can just see almost endlessly, an endless horizon, and then boom, the mountains are just on the western side.
It's incredible.
Yeah. It's beautiful, and it's very lucky that now we get to live here.
Yeah. It'll never get old for me. Never.
Are there any other pieces that you've been looking forward to paint?
Yeah, I think every piece I look forward to painting. Right now, I'm working on the Una Bridgeland location. So that one being a little closer to the zoo, I'm going to do. I'm doing 7 different pieces, and they're all 5 by 4 foot pieces of different animals. So I'm going to do some zoo creatures and then some Alberta wildlife as well. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it'll be fun kind of tying all those pieces together.
And it's your first time doing these exotic animals, right? Because from what I've seen, you've done sort of like the Albertan wildlife, the bears, the buffalo.
Yeah, so I'm
sheep,
sure there will be some sheep, some elephants.
Yeah.
So I'll throw a couple in there that I haven't done before, challenge myself a bit.
I wanted to ask you if the city of Calgary decided to, came knocking at your door and said, Kim, we want you to design a mural for us.
Yeah.
Where would you put it and what would it be about?
Yeah, that's a good question. Anything, we looked some locations up because this question you gave me a little hint for, but it's anything that's facing the mountains. I would love, whether it's an old brick building but if it was west facing the mountains, and I would love to do just a big bear, right? Like native to our mountains, and and then if it overlooked a park, even better, right? Where people are kind of doing outdoor activity within the city, the core, and looking up towards this bear, and this bear looking out towards the west into the mountains, would be kind of my go-to.
Yeah, and where did you say you'd paint it?
I would paint a bear for sure.
Yeah, but which area of the city?
Oh, downtown for sure.
Downtown for sure. One of those buildings that they've got.
Yeah, there's, as much as I love the mountains, I love downtown Calgary. I love the hustle bustle. Even when I'm, working EMS shifts, it's like that's where I'm going to pick up my shifts is downtown. I love the energy of it, and the experience of it. So that's 100% where it'd be, but it'd have to face west.
Yeah.
That's where my 2 worlds collide, is like inner city and the mountains.
How long are those EMS shifts?
It just depends. When I worked Calgary Fire, there were 24-hour shifts, and then my EMS shifts are generally 12 hours. Some are 8.4, but there's always overtime. It's unpredictable, right? So you're generally not off on time. So still
a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of time to be under stress and just really grounded.
Yeah. It is. Wow. It is a unique profession for sure. It's just being a part of some people's most vulnerable parts and events of their life is it's a unique profession for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And one that doesn't go unnoticed.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you regarding the animals.
Yes.
Have you encountered some of them in your hikes?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So definitely a number of times encountered bears. Just recently, actually, I was doing a solo bike ride up Prairie Mountain, and a bear came, it was probably within 10 feet. It came out onto it came to the edge of the trail, stood up on its hind legs, and then crossed the trail. But luckily that was prime berry season. He was focused. He was he saw me, he crossed, and then he was busy eating again. So I've come across a cougar on a bike ride before.
Did it chase you?
No, thank gosh. No, it was.
Was it a grizzly bear or a black bear?
That was a black bear.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I've seen. I don't know. Black bears tend to be a little bit more more reserved. Right.
Yeah.
No.
Thankfully it was a black bear that had no interest in me. But we see wildlife all the time on our hikes. Whether it's moose or sheep.
And that's where the inspiration comes from.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The great wild outdoors. Yeah.
Are there any hikes that you would suggest the audience?
Oh, man. I mean, I would have to say that
Any 3 hikes that come to mind?
Yeah. So my boyfriend and I just did Cascade, which we did for the first time, which is kind of weird in the sense that it's like iconic mountain, that overlooks Banff. So we just did that. And
Is that the one with the gondola?
No. So it's opposite. So it's
opposite. Okay, so
yeah,
like you're going through the main route towards Banff.
Yeah, so like
and then at
Highway
the end
1.
of it.
So if you're on Highway 1, Banff is on your right, and the Cascade is on your. Banff is on your left, and Cascade's on your right.
But I'm picturing it more from seeing it from Banff. That's the one where like Banff has like the main avenue.
Yes.
And then you're standing at the end of the avenue, and then you're facing towards Cascade.
That's Cascade.
That one.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful hike. It was beautiful.
Was it easy?
I wouldn't say it was a longer hike. So I think it was like 18K, maybe longer, and then 1,800 meter elevation. But nothing too technical. It was just like a full day. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So highly recommend
day hike.
that. Yeah. And then I would say, I mean, there's so many fantastic hikes. It's hard to kind of narrow them down, but yeah.
Well, you've had such an interesting life.
Yeah.
You've had many journeys. You've had many experiences. What does success mean to you?
Oh, success. That's a tricky question. Success definitely is, the feeling of fulfillment, progression that doesn't stop. And then, if you can combine that with, making a bit of a living, it's, I think that would be success, but definitely just fulfillment, like enjoying whatever it is that you're doing, then you've succeeded.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Almost kind of bringing it back to a balance.
Yeah.
And really having just a balanced outlook on life.
Yeah, totally.
And seeing, okay, well, here's these aspects of my life that are stressful, and how I can balance it with art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point of view.
Yeah.
And with that, I only have one question left for you, one that we like to ask all of our guests in the show. If you had one word to describe yourself with, which would it be?
Definitely adventurous.
Definitely adventurous, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, after seeing all those posts on Instagram with you carrying the canvas on the back, going to different locations, traveling.
Yeah.
You guys have your own travel guide.
Yeah. Well,
like
Paul does.
Well,
I'm along for the ride.
The traveling guide where people can just look at different locations to go and experience things.
Yeah.
You bringing your canvas along, painting. It's amazing to see.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you so much for being part of the show.
Yeah.
Thanks
for having me.
For coming and for sharing your experiences and your journey. It's been a blast.
It. Thanks for making it easy.
Well, and that wraps up another episode of StoryHive On Location Calgary. If you've got a story and want to be featured, don't forget to scan the QR code and apply to be a guest on our show. Stay tuned. See you next time.